Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're unpacking a really profound piece of writing. We're going to explore a contemplative text called Zion Arise, Nigeria Shine, written by a Nigerian policy strategist. And you know, right off the bat, this isn't your standard dry policy brief. It's actually a deeply emotional, highly poetic, yet incredibly structured piece of strategic thinking. Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer and see how raw emotion can literally map out a vision for national transformation.
Should captives sing? I want you to just sit with that for a second. It's a pretty stark, heavy question, isn't it? But it immediately sets the emotional stage for everything we're about to look at today. When a population feels trapped or burdened, what's the appropriate response? Like, do they sing? Do they mourn? It's an incredibly powerful hook that pulls us right into the absolute heart of the societal distress we're exploring.
The mind behind this striking question is Oluyomi Ola-David. She is an author, a strategist, and a real visionary heavily focused on global development and transformation. When you dive into her work, you realize super quickly that she's someone who isn't just, observing problems from a distance. She is passionately driven to generate actual, workable solutions. She leverages her unique voice to influence policy and strategy, providing essential clarity to those she leads.
Now, consider how simple, yet totally foundational this statement is to her entire worldview. I am a Nigerian, and I love people. This is her core motivation right here. She explicitly links her identity and her profound love for her people directly to her broader mission. For her, strategy and policy aren't just about numbers or abstract political theories, right? They're deeply rooted in a genuine care for the well-being of actual human lives. And this brilliantly illustrates the really diverse toolkit she uses to communicate her vision. She definitely doesn't just stick to one medium. She writes technical insights, opinion articles, policy briefs, and conducts polls. But the piece for examining today falls under the category of contemplations. This is such a fascinating method. She uses these contemplations to process complex, often painful national realities, and then she translates that raw, poetic emotion into clear, focused societal solutions that eventually inform her strict policy briefs.
So that brings us to our first thematic phase of her work, Echoes of Plunder, Confronting National Distress.
In this section, she forces the reader to look directly at the trauma facing the nation. She doesn't sugarcoat the reality at all, asking, how can the plundered laugh? Think about the gravity of that for a minute. When a nation's resources, its spirit, or its peace have been literally stripped away, how can its people find joy? She's demanding that we first recognize the sheer weight of the distress before we can ever even begin to talk about fixing it.
But she doesn't let us just stay in that despair. The absolutely crucial point here is how she immediately pivots. Right after acknowledging the painful reality of a plundered people, she issues a direct call for intervention. She says, plead mercy for their iniquity and preserve the land. She bridges the gap between acknowledging the trauma and calling for spiritual and physical preservation. It's a plea to stop the bleeding, to save the foundation of the nation so that something new can actually be built upon it.
Then she turns her attention upward, asking, should the noble forget? This question is completely designed to build tension. She's directly challenging those in power, the leaders and the privileged. She's asking if those of noble standing are dangerously ignoring the plight of the distressed. It's a really poignant reminder that true leadership requires a long memory and a deep, deep awareness of the struggles happening on the ground.
Which naturally brings us to our next phase, rebuilding the nation, from distress to action.
Having thoroughly laid out the problem, she now shifts the narrative to propose tangible solutions. To do this, she visually and conceptually contrasts two distinct groups within her society. On one side, you've got the current reality for many, the distressed and the captives. On the other side, you have the agents of change, the faithful crew, and the noble. She uses this contrast to basically mobilize her readers. She's asking, essentially, how can the faithful crew rebuild if they're completely overwhelmed by the distress? She is calling out the dedicated builders of the nation to step out from among the captives and actually get to work.
And this brilliantly illustrates how a poem can literally double as an action plan. If we break down her poetic verses, she is actually giving us 3 literal, actionable strategy steps for national reconstruction. Step 1. Call up landmarks of deliverance, meaning remember past victories and use them as a solid foundation. Step 2. Gather prudence to the rubble. So don't just rush in blindly. Use wisdom and careful planning when dealing with the wreckage of society. And Step 3. Construct the nation. Do the hard, systematic, everyday work of building.
But amidst all this rigorous strategic construction, she anchors us right back to her core motivation and give hope to the weary. We really have to remember that at the very heart of her strategy is a deep, abiding empathy. The ultimate goal of calling up landmarks and gathering prudence isn't just to have, impressive national infrastructure. It's to provide real relief and hope to the tired, vulnerable people she loves so much.
Okay, let's move into part 3, the pillars of transformation, decrees for a new Nigeria.
Here, she moves from just giving instructions to laying out rapid-fire, authoritative declarations for the future. She writes, "Wisdom reign, princes be just, peace to Nigeria." Looking at these impartially, we see them as her ultimate vision for governance and societal harmony. She isn't just sort of hoping for these things. She's decreeing them as the absolute standard. She expects leadership, the princes, to be just, and she expects the governing atmosphere to be completely ruled by wisdom, all leading to ultimate peace.
All of which culminates in this definitive, incredibly uplifting statement: Nigeria will win. After confronting the plunder, after strategizing the rebuild, and after decreeing justice, she just plants her flag in unyielding patriotic optimism. It's a pretty remarkable showcase of her absolute belief in the nation's destiny and resilience.
To ensure this victory is comprehensive, she offers a dual blessing. Peace be within your walls, prosperity be within your palaces. Notice how she beautifully separates the two concepts here. The walls represent the borders, the streets, the everyday citizens. They need security and peace. The palaces represent the leadership, the institutions, the economic hubs. They need prosperity and thriving. She clearly recognizes that a successful nation requires both everyday security and high-level economic thriving to truly win.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, a faith-driven vision, the core catalyst.
So what powers all this? What gives her the energy to confront national trauma and then strategically plan for prosperity? Well, to truly understand her policy work, we have to look neutrally at the deeply held spiritual convictions serving as her foundation. She outlines 3 core tenets that act as the philosophical and spiritual engine for her entire vision. Faith will be great, hope will not disappoint, love will not fail. For her, these aren't just nice words to put on a greeting card. They're operational guarantees. Because she believes love will not fail, she has the stamina to keep generating solutions. Because hope won't disappoint, she can look at the literal rubble and still see a future nation.
And amidst these grand national visions, she offers this brief, incredibly powerful directive to the individual: stay in your element. It's a massive call for authenticity and focus. She's telling her audience that you cannot rebuild a nation if you're trying to be someone else. You have to find your specific purpose, your unique skill set, and lock right into it.
Which leads us to the end, where she reveals her own element, her ultimate driving force. She writes, "My Father God owns and rules the universe. He is the wheel within my wheels." This profound insight shows us exactly how she views the world. She sees her own strategic mind, her inner wheels, as being constantly turned and directed by a higher, divine purpose. This is the unshakable bedrock that allows her to look at societal distress and immediately start drafting the blueprints for a transformed society.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to turn this concept over to you. Oluyomi Ola-David draws her immense strategic energy from her profound faith and her deep, deep love for her people. She knows exactly what turns her gears. So what about you? What is the wheel within your wheels that drives you to build a better world, to stay in your element and to give hope to the weary? It's definitely a question worth contemplating today. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this absolutely fascinating piece of work. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll catch you next time.